Welcome to Human-Rich. We're here to learn about the humans that are part of every business equation and can make or break a company. As we forget them often, the humans, they don't forget that they usually go to work and they don't forget what they do in their work. So they expect the same personalized experience that they have when they go to shop on Amazon. It is why we can't continue to approach them the way when it's convenient for us, but instead we need to approach them with relevant content at the right moment. So I'm Hugo Hamel, founder and CMO of Enrich³, a personalization marketing agency for B2B businesses. Our today's guest, Jan Kartusek, is CEO at the In Sales Academy. And lucky us, he's taking the time to walk us through personalization, but more precisely, when used in prospecting strategies for B2B sales. So we're going to learn about how to humanize our marketing and grow our online sales. Now, before we start, I wanted to thank you, Jan, for taking the time for be part of Human-Rich. And
Sure. Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. And as we're human-centered, I'd like to ask you my first question. What is the one thing that most people don't know about you and maybe are not even mentioned online?
That I box. I'm an amateur boxer.
You're what?
Boxing,
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
So so now I get why you made a video about Mike Tyson.
Yes, exactly. I made a video about Tyson. Yep.
Awesome. So for those that don't know, Jan is a great podcaster and he makes great videos. And the last video that he published was about Mike Tyson. And what is the name of the channel again?
Well, I have a couple of channels, but this was on my kind of like just personal channel because that's where I post kind of like just my thoughts. It's not business related at all. And then the other one is under my name, which is mostly sales marketing related, which is Jan Kartusek. So yeah.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit more about your journey into personalization for B2B prospecting sales. When did it really start from the very, very first beginning? Like it might be many years ago, but just at least.
Well, I started as a sales guy 4 or 5 years ago, but it wasn't really personal. We were doing a bunch of cold calls, and we used the same script for each vertical, so it wasn't really effective, even though I was pretty good at it. So once people opened up, it kind of flowed really well, but the opening was really just like generic, and I didn't like it. And when I started the agency, and the main channel we use is cold email or LinkedIn or just kind of B2B focused stuff. So it's not really direct advertising. That's where I realized, like, when you write an email or a LinkedIn invitation, and you can automate this with a bunch of extensions, right? There's so many of them on the market for each of these channels. There's ultimately millions of these tools out there, but they all promise you replies, or they promise you leads or something. But for 99% of people, it never happens. And I had to study over 1 million of emails, and we've sent million emails to learn that the only, especially in B2B sales, obviously, because the cold emails you can't really send to consumers. So, but with B2B sales, it's really about just being very, very strategic about who you're going to approach. And the personalization is really, in our agency, we actually try to personalize each email to each person. And it can be done on scale. So many people think this cannot be done on scale, but it can. It's just requires a lot of training, and a lot of the sales guys we have, they are trained in this specific process. And this process gives us like 30% response rate on our emails. And if we would just do like a generic email, which can be funny, can have memes, or it can even have like list videos or anything. It doesn't matter. It's still generic because the message can be sent to more than one person. So the question you should always ask is this message, can this message be sent to multiple people? If yes, you're not being personal. So we do research 2 minutes on one lead, basically. And if we do the math, we can approach around 50 people a day. But if 15 of them replies, and if we have good conversions, we get 10 meetings, and from 10 meetings we close 3 people. It's much better than to run 5,000 emails and destroy the marketplace, and nobody will ever speak with you. So yeah. that's kind of what I think about in emails related terms.
That's indeed a good approach. And are you doing the research yourself, or you're having VAs or other people on your team that are doing the research?
So it's pretty complex. There are different parts of the process. So somebody has to create a strategy. And since we work with clients, it's me and the CEO of the other company, usually, or a VP of sales or marketing. The strategy is, let's say you sell complex software development services, or you have a B2B SaaS product that you sell to some brands. Most people don't have clarity to who they sell, so they have multiple verticals, and they just say like, we can do anyone, like anybody's a lead, especially if they are like enterprise or something, but it's not really specific. So the way we work, we look at their past clients, or we look at the entire portfolio, whether that's B2B SaaS or they sell agency services, doesn't matter, it's still B2B sales. And we look through what is special, or what niches are kind of standing out. So whether that's fintech, or it can be like maybe they sell design services, but they really do it well for, I don't know, banks. And then they have like one guy from automotive. So that is not related there. If they have 10 banks in portfolio, they should really just be focused on that. So the next step is really to craft some sort of use case or case study. And most people get this wrong. They don't really include specific numbers. Most case studies are boring, or they are not really value, or they don't provide value. By value, I mean what is a tangible result the customer got from your product or service. So it can be like, hey, I don't know, we hired a marketing agency and they generated 50 leads and it turned into this much revenue. So that's a tangible value, and in how much time, obviously. And you can kind of use those numbers in the middle of the case study to kind of pull attention, like, this is what has happened, and we did this for this fintech company. And let's say this fintech company was raising Series A, okay? Just example.
Yeah.
So now here comes the hard part. Most people don't get this. This is where I kind of have to work on the strategy with the other guys. We need to only approach other fintech companies raising Series A, because the thing is, it's going to be so relatable, and we have so many insights that if I come to the Series A company, fintech, and I say, hey, last 6 months, for 6 months, we've worked with your competitor, its name is this, and we were able to generate this much money, whatever, this much revenue, and I have some insights I'd love to share with you. We have a case study, obviously, but there's something we've learned that works in your space. Would you like to have a meeting for that or something? It can be different call to action. It can be like, is this interesting? Or I don't know, something like that. Close question, obviously. And this is so much like, this is exactly what you're hitting, right? Most people just say startups. That's my target. Not really. There's so many verticals. E-commerce startup has nothing in common with fintech startup, and that has nothing in common with B2B SaaS, some other startup. So it's like, you need to really break down everything. So if you think of e-commerce, think like, what is e-commerce? Well, it's fashion. What else is e-commerce? There's so many e-commerce, right? The more you break it down into like the bare minimum, and the more you relate that use case to something, the better it's going to resonate, the much better response rate you're going to get. Obviously, you need to test. So that's why we say like, okay, we're going to create 6 case studies. We'll see which one works best or which one resonates the most. But one or at least 50% of them usually do quite well. So that's part one. And this is the most important part of this entire process. Because once you know that you're going after fintech startups in Series A, you can do Facebook ads, you can do cold email, you can do anything. It doesn't matter, because the channel is irrelevant. The message is resonating. So once you know that the message is there, the channel is like, okay, we can even cold call them. I don't care. It's going to all work. But cold email is kind of very useful in this technology space, right? But that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not looking at the channel. Many marketing agencies or companies are looking at like the channel, like, but I'm just more concerned about like the strategy. Like, if the strategy is right, then we can work out the channels. It's fine. And so the next part is, obviously, we have freelancers. We use a bunch of them. We have an agency in Pakistan. They have like 100 people, and we use a lot of them. But the point is, they look for data. So once we know that we are going after these fintech startups, whatever, we just give them directories, which can be Crunchbase or any other website, and we just tell them, okay, we're looking for all the startups. They have access they have premium accounts. We don't have to buy them. And they just go, they list the CEOs, they list the founders, CTOs, whoever we are trying to reach, CMOs. And from there, we just, they even find the emails. So we don't do any of that process. And it's super useful because we used to do this in-house and it was super demanding. We used to do like 3 other tools that were connected. Finding emails is really a bad process. And so if they can do that, that's much more effective. They can just do it quickly and they are verified, 100% zero bounce rate. And once they do that, you cannot have a freelancer or a VA that's not part of the agency or your company do prospecting, because they don't know how to write emails. So then it comes to the sales guy or a SDR, you want to call them. They are specifically trained on writing first lines or opening lines of emails. And they have a giant spreadsheet, and they have, let's say, these fintech startups. Email is already written, so we already know like which fields are going to be automated. And let's say it's like a 4-sentence email, and we have like the entire first paragraph like custom, and that's where the sales guy comes in, and it takes him like a minute or 2 to write the first line. This has to be done in-house because the person has to understand the strategy, which VAs will never do, or freelancers. It has to be a full-time employee who's a sales guy, not a marketer, sales guy, because marketers tend to write very marketing emails, like very kind of weird sounding. It has to sound like normal person talking. Like it has to be like, hey, I found you on Crunchbase and I saw you guys raised $5 million last year and you work with a bunch of I don't know, banks in London. That's great. Something like that. So we always go after easy things. So they are trained usually to just go to like a website, look at their portfolio items, which is usually the clients they have, and then pull out those brands and use them as a personalization. So this cannot be automated by any robot. So the point of the first line is to let the prospect know that this wasn't a robot, because the first line can be seen in Gmail. So when they open an email and they see the first line and they see like, hey, my name is Jan, delete. We start, hey, I found you on Crunchbase and I love that your product is revolutionizing healthcare, and you've been working with these hospitals in the States, like Boston, whatever hospital, right? Being so specific, you can't just say you're revolutionizing fintech, because that can be said about a lot of stuff. So you have to specifically take these things that they have on the website, testimonials, Capterra reviews, all these things help. So these sales guys just go in and just write these things. And it takes around a minute for one company. So it's not like cannot be done on scale, because if we have 50 companies, it takes 1 hour, okay?
Yeah,
1 hour for 50 companies is pretty good. And then they have a sequence, 50 emails per day. We don't send more because we know all the spam traps and all that. So we then load it up to a software tool. This can be anything. You have Mailshake, Woodpecker, Lemlist, millions of them. And then they just send it out, right? So most people look at the tools, or most people look at these irrelevant things, but it's all about not even the copywriting, it's all about the strategy. Because even if the first line was bad, it would still work because the target is right. So
it's true. So basically, like if we would have to kind of summarize and do some steps, it would be, for example, get right your strategy. So narrow your audience properly, and then after that, have the right let's say VA to scrape a list, and then have the right salesperson, SDR person, as you said, internally to write the first line, and then after that use a tool to send the email. That's kind of roughly the steps.
It's always different. The person who's writing the first lines we also use them for cold calls, and they only do that once they receive a reply, because you have a signature in the email that has a phone number, and it's proven in the marketing everywhere that once you receive a reply, if you call them within a minute, they'll remember you and they'll be speaking with you. This is like highly relevant. So once we receive a reply, if there's a phone number, they just call them, and they just try to book a meeting. So the call is not to sell, the call is to set a meeting. So it's something like, for our clients, it would be like, hey, my name's Anna, which is our SDR, and I am an assistant of the CEO you just emailed, and I'd love to schedule a call on his behalf for the next week. Did you get his email? Yes. Okay. So it's on purpose assistant, because they will not question her. If she was a sales guy, they would be like, what is this about? It's not. She's an assistant of the CEO. She's trying to schedule a call because you replied. And that's how you set those meetings on the calendar, which is super important. Once they are booked on the Calendly or something, then the person, the CEO, whoever is the sales guy or account executive or whoever is actually doing the meeting, the big meeting, can then do it with no problems. You send some reminder emails, but usually over 80% of people show up. So yeah, but the person who's writing those lines, yeah, I wouldn't let them do the first meeting usually, because that has to be like a more senior salesperson who can actually do a whole discovery of needs and budgets and all that stuff. So it's different roles, I would say. Yeah.
Okay, great. And out of curiosity, what kind of, you said that you started in sales, and you now have your business. What kind of passion did you in the like personalization, but for prospecting? Like, what, from where does that passion starts from? Is it from a sales background, or is it from another kind of influence that you had from outside?
I'm not sure. This was like a passion. I just saw this as a problem for like 3 years and I couldn't figure it out. I was like, really, I tried everything. I tried cold emails and it didn't work. I was like, nothing works. I was like so mad. And yeah, I just knew there's a way. I knew there must be a way to do this. And everybody, they share templates online and all that, and nothing worked. And I was like, damn, there must be a way. And so then I started experimenting. I started learning about a lot of cold email. I started learning a lot. And after a few months, it kind of clicked and I figured it out. And then I did a bunch of testing and it worked. And then I was like, okay, let's do this because it's figured out. Because the problem when I was a sales guy, biggest problem we didn't have enough leads. I always was like, why are there no leads? So this was always the problem. So I was like, I know how to sell, but I don't have leads. So is this pointless then? And then I had that I knew how to generate leads, but it was through different channels and they weren't good. I'm like, there has to be a way to do in B2B, obviously. There has to be a way to do this on scale, predictably, and all that stuff. And I couldn't figure it out. People were talking about it. I was like, this doesn't make sense. And then nobody was sharing specifically, like what I told you right now, nobody would tell you. Like I would hear thousands of podcasts, nobody would share this much. And then I listened to more and more and discovered some weird places online, and then I figured it out. I read about it a lot. Yeah, so it's just a bunch of theory, but it was from my own frustration. And then once I figured it out, it was like, yeah, I can do this, and this is cool because not many people can do this. Yeah.
Awesome. And can you try to give us a bit of context? Can you tell us like what you do in Sales Academy? Like what is in Sales Academy? And also in your work, I know that you've already talked a bit about it, but in your work, how do you apply personalization for prospecting and for B2B sales?
Yeah, so we're, I don't like to use a lead generation agency, but we're kind of a lead generation agency. But basically, companies hire us. We only work with software houses from Europe. So that's the problem with any sort of marketing is you're going to be, you're in a space which is saturated. So the only way to differentiate is to pick a niche, which I learned you have to do. Otherwise, there's no differentiation. So I was like, if we're a lead gen agency, we need to just pick one target. We can't do B2B SaaS and can do agencies at the same time. There's nothing in common. So B2B SaaS usually couldn't afford us. We did a couple of startups and sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. And then I was like, we need to focus on bigger deals. B2B SaaS are small deals. And agencies, development agencies, they do 100K, 500K deals. So they can spend 5K a month on a service because they can, they are trying to do complex selling. And so that was like a focus. And so we're focused. We have a lot of Polish customers, a lot of customers from Czech Republic, Slovakia, and from this region. But we also had some from Israel, US, and stuff like that. And yeah, it's all custom software development or UIX design, designers related to SaaS. This space, our niche is super saturated, so they have a big problem there with leads. Some companies, they have like 200 employees and they get 0 leads a month. It's crazy. and they do $1 million deals. So we obviously hit like the target, because like B2B SaaS company, they do get leads somehow, or there's a way to figure it out. But for this, there's so much problems there. So that was the question, right? Who do we do it for? So for these guys, but we also do B2B enterprise and some other stuff. So any B2B we can help, but the agencies were kind of our niche for past 2 years. And then for, what was the other question?
Like in your work, I know that we've already discussed about personalization and how you kind of, what is your system, but like how do you apply it if there's anything that you haven't mentioned? If you haven't already mentioned, it's fine.
You mean in execution or in like selling, or which part of the?
Can be both. Like how do you apply personalization either in your execution in your execution or on your selling part of like personalization for prospecting and B2B sales?
Yeah, so I mean, if it's execution, it's what I told you, the process. So
Yeah,
that's pretty
right.
much it. We do different stuff as well. You know, you can apply this for trade shows, for events, which works much better. Now we're doing a huge campaigns in Web Summit, and you know, these work much better because you're asking for a face-to-face meeting or coffee from a speaker standpoint. To stop by the booth, much easier to get that than Skype call.
Right.
So you can apply these things a lot in different verticals, not just like Skype calls and stuff. But when it comes to the overall thing, I think this is it. Yeah, I'm not sure.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And in terms of positive outcomes, can you share us some kind of case studies or just like a few results that you've been able to generate?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking, there was one guy. Usually the deals we were doing, they take a couple of months to close. So the deals, the biggest deals were like around 100K, and it takes like 3 months. But the biggest problem I realized after some time with different companies in B2B is that they don't even have problems with leads, but the converting of leads to actual deals. This is a general problem in especially Europe, I would say, if they deal with Americans. So that's why we introduced like lead nurturing into our process now, and deal acceleration, which is sort of like helping sales coaching mostly, which is basically me listening to the calls they make and just breaking it down and creating like a structure for them. Because like you have to realize that outbound leads are different than inbound leads. So inbound lead is somebody who has a project or some need, and he comes to you, but you're just one of like 20 agencies he approaches. So the only thing he's going to decide on is pricing usually. The outbound lead is completely reversed. They don't much care about pricing if you target well. The problem there is timing. You have to reach them at the right time. So many times people expect to close on first call or to do these sort of stuff, and we had to realize that our clients were doing this, and to tell them that they have to build a relationship. So this is one of the personalization, if you want to call it, like just to like, first call is not there to sell or even to mention your services. Is there to really make client realize they have some sort of problem. And so once you do that, and then you arrange the second meeting, that meeting can be about that. But the first meeting is really just to get to know them. And so now we're trying to push that. But yeah, most companies, the deals are around from $20,000 to $100,000 or euros, and it takes about 3 months to see the first results, because you need some replies and meetings until they do a deal. Sometimes 6 months, sometimes even a year, and sometimes never. Right? We had clients who we generated leads for, and nothing happened, and we were like, how is this possible? Like, if I get a meeting with a CTO of, let's say, what's the big company, Skype or something, and I don't do anything there, it's such a waste of time. Like there was so much opportunity in that meeting. So like sometimes it's like doing marketing is super hard, because like your clients are sometimes very very difficult to work with. But anyways.
Indeed. And just to go back earlier, you talk about Crunchbase. I'm curious because some people you see Crunchbase more as a, let's say, a SaaS or startup kind of database, but startup that can have become unicorns or bigger companies. In terms of really B2B sales, why would you use Crunchbase more than another, let's say, list or platform to gather to look for businesses?
Yeah, so it really depends on the client. So Crunchbase is there if, as I mentioned, if we sell a complex software development, usually it's building MVP products for startups. So they will hang out on Crunchbase because
Right.
all startups are there. So if it's not that and we're going after enterprise, we're not going to go on Crunchbase, obviously.
Okay.
We're going to go on different sites. So yeah, it's Crunchbase is mostly if we sell to startups, yeah, at different stages, yeah.
Perfect. And in terms of B2B prospecting sales for personalization, do you have any recommendations like what people should do, what people should not do?
Well, there's a lot. I mean, to be honest,
Yeah,
what
just name
people
a few
should do.
then. And then people
Yeah.
that wants more can reach out to you.
No, not really. I mean, I have thousands of videos on YouTube about this, but
Okay.
what not to do? What not to do is to. This is what not to do. What not to do is to find a template online or some guy who writes emails and just take that template and use it in your business. It doesn't work. The problem is many people use that template, so it got spread and people saw it, and if it doesn't matter, it's funny. Especially the weird thing is if it's funny and it doesn't reflect your personality and they know it, it's like it's such a pointless thing. So it's like if you're gonna be funny, like come up with your own jokes or come up with something like that. We don't really do jokes. I mean, I maybe they work, I don't know. I just care about meetings. I don't care about making them laugh or something. I just want to be effective. The way to be effective is to get to the straight to the point, to value proposition and results, and be short as hell. 2 lines, 3 lines. If you see these big emails online, nobody's going to read that. No CEO will ever read a 4-5 paragraph email from somebody he doesn't know. So you have to realize that these people check on the phone. They have 2 seconds for you. And if your first line isn't personalized, then you're already losing. And then the other things, if you're just going on about your company, that's already lost. We, in the first email, we never talk. We don't even mention our name and our company. Never. We just go about the case study and just talk about them. It's like the switch. Like the switch is just talk about them. Just talk about them. And talk about your results, but never mention your company. Don't even say what you do. Don't even do it. And so like switch. That was the biggest trick that I learned. Like just switch to that prospect, yeah, and should just talk about them, because nobody cares about the company. Like really, it's like that. Like nobody cares about your company, right? So why mentioning your service line? Like it's too early. You can mention it on the first call. Much effective than in the cold email. Cold email is just to get a response. It's not to get a sale or to interest or something like that. It's to get a response and get to some sort of a meeting. But I don't think that was your question, was it? I'm
I
not
mean,
sure.
yeah. No, it was. I mean, it was what to do and what not to do. But
Yeah. So yeah, exactly.
so it kind of answered definitely well the question. And out of curiosity, you said that to not use any do not use any templates. So
Mhm.
if you want to start like you want to write in a cold email, but
Yeah.
you want to personalize it, but you don't know where to
Mhm.
start, and you should not, from your recommendation, use any templates. So where do you start?
Yeah. So switch mindset from templates to framework. And if you think in frameworks, you'll be always able to write an email in any industry forever until the end of time. Nobody will ever copy you. If you think of templates, you'll be always chasing something. So the framework is this: hi, first name, custom opening line. Why are you reaching out right now, and what's in it for me? This is usually like, hey, I'm reaching out because, and then talk about the use case in one sentence. Because we recently helped a bank from Finland. If you're targeting bank in Finland, I don't know, reduce the operation cost by 50% by streamlining their payroll services. I just made it up. That's a value proposition. It has a number. It must have a number. If you don't have a number, don't even send an email. Must have a number. That's why we do customer interviews, to get those numbers. Otherwise, they won't share it. So once we get those, so that's value proposition is like the third line. And then After this, it's like, hey, is this interesting? Call to action, best Jan, the end. So that's the framework. Think of it, take that framework, use it in your business. Don't say hello or goodbye. Say just, hey, hi, somebody. And customize, like, come up with something that this has to be trained. This is like the skill you need to learn. But then the value proposition can be done from the case study. So when I check a case study, I just pull out some numbers and I create a sentence from them. That's the second. But the point is, this is all in one vertical. Okay, you have to do this in different verticals. They all change, but it's all the same framework. We never change the framework. So if you think of this in these terms, in frameworks, then what about templates? I don't care, because this is specifically for this market about your services and cannot be duplicated because it doesn't apply to anybody else, and custom line. So it's like that's gonna help you definitely.
Awesome. Okay, nice. So now to wrap it up, is there anything else you would like to share? Anything that you would like to say, like to kind of end and go on and help people like with the last advice or something that would summarize everything?
I think it's more about just strategy. I always come back to that. Like just forget all marketing channels or anything you're doing. You just need to figure out, like, what's your service or product? Who is it for? Most people don't have that figured out, even if they think they do. So just spend some time on that and just be more focused on specific niche, and you'll stand out, because not many people are willing to do that, and you'll still have a plenty of people to approach. So it's not like you will be losing clients. You will actually gain clients. It's just the mindset trick again, people think. So yeah.
Awesome. So thanks again, Jan, for coming into Humanrich. For those that want to follow more, Jan Kartusek on YouTube, he has his own. You have your own channel, and you have your own podcast called B2B. Can you?
No, it's entrepreneurs in B2B sales. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. I wasn't sure about the full name. So make sure that you follow him, and that's how you can get as much advice and the knowledge from him. And because that people can reach out to you if they have any question, but I'm pretty sure that they have all of the answer on your YouTube channel with the amount of videos that you've published. Everything is there.
Yeah, if you want, you can send me a message on LinkedIn or something.
Awesome. Thanks again for being here. See you later.
Yeah. See ya. Thanks.